everyone, welcome back to my Done by February playlist here on YouTube. My name's Anita. Um, I have 3 pages, possibly 4, that I'm just finishing up that I showed in the first video I did in the Start Here video. First up is backing that reason why page. You saw me trimming it down just a little bit, that page that I made in Photoshop of the quote, just using my ATG gun, putting some tape runner down. I've got this on fast forward so it's not so tedious. Just trimming the sides with my guillotine trimmer. I love this trimmer. It'll go through a lot of paper and makes it super easy to trim off the sides. Here I'm just lining up my holes with my 6-hole punch. Punching that. And here I realize it's kind of plain. I think I might put something on there, but not sure what. So I just put it aside for now. I will come back to it later. Here I'm just trimming down the journal card for that pocket page. I like to batch process things where I've printed off a bunch of my photos, a bunch of my journaling cards, have most of it prepped, and then I do exactly like I'm doing here, trim things down, put things where they want to be. I don't spend a lot of time fussing and mussing. I did decide that that picture on the bottom left is a bit wild in the colors that are in there. I just wanted to tone it down a bit. I was looking through my vellums. Here I'm matching the reds and forgetting that those pages aren't going side by side. But then I come across this star, 4x4 star transparency, um, and quite liked it on top of the photo. It mutes it just enough to dull the colors without uh, obstructing the photo. So I decided to use that. I just literally cut it down to 3x4. Here I'm just taking the backing off. A lot of the transparencies from Ellie Edwards have a backing on them, so be mindful of that. But yeah, I just stuck it in the pocket and calling that one done for now. I will come back to it in a bit to add a number. But for now, that's going back in the album. I'll be pulling out the next one, which is a large tag. So the red tag is a physical product. Um, the looking forward page will be the back of that tag. Um, That one I made myself in Photoshop using the digital of that red tag. Just added in the patterned paper and made the squares and rectangles and whatnot. Here I'm just cutting down the photos for that red tag. That'll be an us page. It's just our photos, our name, and our ages. I do that almost every year for December Daily or a family photo, one or the other. Um, I just made these ones kind of look a little like Polaroids. Squares would have been better, but they wouldn't have fit as nicely. I like the small rectangles. I don't remember what size these are. I want to say close to 2x3, but I might be wrong. Pull out a ruler here. About 1.5 by 2 3/4 ish are those the sizes of those photos. So here I am just trimming down um, the back side. I spent a lot of time fussing. I think I mentioned in the Start Here video, normally I would have printed this borderless, would have made it so much easier, but I had to fuss a little bit just to make sure I wasn't cutting anything off that I didn't want to cut off. Plus, um, I didn't want to trim too much of my tag. So I'm just double checking where the holes are going to go, that I've got it the right way. Then I'm going to do my journaling first. You'll see a page over there on the left. I had made that one originally for this page, the looking forward to this season um, page, but I ended up not liking that one so much and decided to do this instead. So I wrote some of the same journaling, but then ended up, I had more space on this one, so I ended up writing a little bit extra compared to what I wrote on the original. Sorry about my hair in the way. So that's done. And then that top right hand rectangle will be where the number is going to go. Still fussing around with where to put it, how much to trim off. In the end, I do get it not too bad. Here I'm just using the ATG gun again to just add a little adhesive. Then I'm making sure to line up the very top because I don't want to trim any, don't want to have to trim any off the top, and didn't want to trim a ton off the bottom either. So I'm just cutting it down, again using my guillotine trimmer. Next up, I'll be punching holes after I do a little more trimming here. I used my We Are Memory Keepers hole punch first. Not sure why, because I do come in again and use my 6-hole punch. Maybe the holes were smaller, and I think I tried it in the album and they're just a little too small, I find, when I use my We Are one on, I think it's the third setting or second setting. I don't know. There's two different holes I use. One I find is too large, the other one I find is too small. So, and the 6-hole punch tends to be just right. So, adding my photos back in, decided I'd like to dress it up just a little bit. So, pulling out these glitter stars. Love these things from Michaels. Um, you'll see me make a oopsie here in a second. Oh, there I am bringing out my T ruler, making sure they're straight. Adding on the photos. Then you're going to see me pull out a mouse pad to poke a hole. Thankfully, I started where I did because I wasn't really thinking about the fact that I already adhered this down and that the hole went all the way through. Um, it ended up being in the O for the forward word, uh, and you can't really tell. So I pivoted a little bit. Instead of poking holes, I grab those trimmers, the wire cutters, that's the word I'm looking for. And those Zots, they are it's hard to explain them, but they're just little dots of glue essentially. And I just ball them up when I take them off and push them down into the brad. And they're fairly dimensional, so they will stick out past the brad, and you can push them down. You don't see the adhesive at all, and they hold really well. So I'm just adding one of those to the back of each of those brads after I take the little prongs off. And then we'll call this one done when I've got these on and move on to the next one. Okay, next up, we're going to embellish these layouts. First up was the tag. I just pulled out a few random plastic stars on top. They all happen to be green and gold, which worked because I'm thinking this is going to be a monochromatic layout anyway. Just going through, trying to decide which one. Decided on this one with the little tree, took the plastic off the back. A lot of those embellishments do have plastic. Ended up choosing a little gold number 1 that I put right on top of the tree, and then added a little bit of glue underneath of that to adhere it down. Then decided it needed a little bit of red. So this is another little embellishment case. It's just tiny little things. That red that I have on there right now is a felt star, but thought it was a little too much, so grabbed these little chipboard stars. I think they came from a star kit. Chose a couple of those. They do have adhesive on the back, and you'll see here I cut this packaging. When I open a new package of embellishments like that, I always cut off the top and have it open so it's easier to get in and out of without having to open and close the package. You see, so I ended up, because my adhesive, these are fairly old, the adhesive was working okay, but they weren't adhering great, so I just added a little bit of glue to hold them on there. And then I'm just gonna add a bit of twine to the top. Just going through, just have that random, well, not random, it's an old December Daily box. Um, Filled with ribbon and twine. So I just chose a bit of the red embroidery floss, a bit of the red and white baker's twine. I'm just gonna put them together, make a loop. Then I'm gonna decide that I'd like to have a loop on each side. So I'm gonna take them apart and do them one at a time. So the red one I'm gonna put through on the striped side, and the striped baker's twine I'm going to put through on the green side. So then you see both from both sides, but each side has a little loop on it. And then I just cut my little tails all at different lengths and fluff it up, and that one is done. Just going to add that into the album and then move on to the pocket page. So this is my number bin. I have little slots for up to number 30. So I have 30 and 31 in one slot. I just grabbed a few of the twos that were just sitting on top. At first I was going to use that little gold one, but it didn't match the number 1. So I grabbed the 2 that was in black of the same. Those were cut from a die cut, from a manual die cut machine. Whenever I die cut, I have extra numbers and things. um, I add the numbers to that bin. I also have die cut storage for extra die cuts, and that way I'm not always having to haul things out to cut. I'll cut a bunch at a time. I just chose a cardstock star. You saw me going through those. A little more glue on the back of the 2 and adhere that down. And that page is done. Next up, I'm going to work on this quote page that I decided needed a little something. I had a canvas star in my stash. I grabbed that. I thought that looked nice. It was a nice size for the page. Just adding a little bit of embroidery frost. Not exactly sure how I want to adhere it yet, because normally I would stitch it on, but it's already adhered, so I don't want to do that. Grabbed a few word phrase stickers. These ones that I'm ending up using, it's a lot of different magic quotes, but it's not stickers, it's perforated cardstock. I ended up, normally I would cut off the perforations. I like things to be nice and straight, but straight edges. But I left the perforations this time. I thought they added just a bit of interest, but I wanted to back it onto something. So you see here, I've grabbed just a couple pieces of cardstock, a black one and a burgundy one. D Decided to go with the black. So I adhered my phrase to the cardstock first and then cut it on my guillotine trimmer. I find that easier sometimes just because the guillotine does allow for precision cutting. Um, I find I can make a straighter cut versus doing it after the fact. And then it needed something in behind just to make it stick out just a little more. So I grabbed these vellum stars and chose a amber yellow one. So it kind of blends into the background, but adds adds a lot to the layout and really makes that quote pop, which just says "Bring on the magic" in case you can't see it in the video. And then now I'm going to put my embroidery floss through. I decided just to knot it at the top. So I put it through the front to the back and then brought it back around and knotted it so that there was a little on each side wrapped around the top of the star there. And then I'm just going to trim them just a little bit so they're not so long. And then we're just going to adhere this with just some glue again. Not too much, but enough that it's not going to go anywhere. And then I adhered down the top and just held it in place for a second there just to make sure that it was going to adhere. And that way it's not flopping all around when I open my album. And then to adhere that quote, because it's going onto the canvas, I'm going to use some red line tape. I'm just using my little multi-tool to take the backing off of that and my tweezers to line it up. And there. And that one's done. Thanks for joining me today. I'm just going to do a little flip through of what's done so far. Super happy to have this many pages done before I start my 2025 album. Hoping to have a few more done before the end of the week. That's it for now. See you in the next one.